Welcome, college football fans, specifically Big 12 college football fans, what I think is the best conference in the world. I am your host, Bryce Petty, and with me, as always, my esteemed colleague, Trevor Knight.
Number 14, how you doing today, my man?
I tell you what, I'm pretty damn good. How about yourself?
Every time I slide in, I get this cord wrapped up around me, but we're good. We're good. Here we go.
Well, you gotta adjust. You
Another
gotta
week.
Be willing to adjust.
Another week. The Trevor and Bryce Show, brought to you by none other than Trevor and Bryce. Here we are, covering the Big 12 each and every week. Man, another week at it.
Yeah.
Here we go. Bryce, you put out some tweets this week on some of your thoughts. It's starting to shape up. We're at this point in the season where I believe you can start making assumptions of how this thing is going to play out.
Correct.
Right? Still a lot of football left. Still a lot of time for people to either make their case in a run for the Big 12 title game or completely diminish that dream for these guys of putting a ring on their finger. But we are in the point now where we've got some history that we can lean on, and now we've got some outlook into the future. So initial thoughts as we do each week.
Well, this is interesting, though, right? Because I think you bring up a good point. This is the time in the season. I think it was Bill Belichick who said it, which was just a very interesting quote from him, being that he is just, he's in the Hall of Fame, going to be in the Hall of Fame as a head coach. But, he talked about it, NFL season, you don't really know who your team is until like week 11, week 12, which is nuts to me because it's like, dude, you've played 12 games, you don't know who you are yet. That is so very true in the world of college football, in the world of NFL football. So this is when things start getting tight. This is when things start getting heated up. And these guys, these teams and these coaches really start to kind of figure out, really what their identity is and then what that identity is going to take them, on the stretch from the last part of October into November.
Definitely.
5 games left, To your point, we had a tweet there. I think it could be what is a 4-legged race, with Iowa State doing what they had to do this week. Are we okay, big guy?
We're figuring it out.
Okay. Do you
We're
need
good.
help?
No, we're good.
Garrett,
we're good.
Do we have 6 hands? Okay. Just distractions. But before I got distracted, we are finding out who Iowa State is, maybe, which is interesting. Again, they had to go beat Oklahoma State at home, which they did, so it puts them right back in the mix. So this is exciting. It's really exciting if you're a Big 12 fan, because as we had mentioned before, that first preseason show, the first week, the second week, it was this OU and Iowa State, and then the rest, maybe they play for a participation trophy, and that's just not the case.
Right, and there is a lot to unpack here, and we'll definitely get to kind of the remainder of the season and how this all breaks out later on in the show. But you mentioned something a second ago, and you talked about that teams don't really find their identity till later in the year. I'll also say that individuals don't sometimes find their identity until the end of the year as well, and specifically the young guys.
Yeah.
This is the point in the season where you've got head coaches and even position coaches coming up to these freshmen that have been impact players and telling them, hey, man, I need you to take the next step. You have however many games under your belt now, right? You are no longer a freshman. Consider yourself a sophomore. Yeah. You need to step up as a leader. You need to step up as a playmaker, and here we go. So it's a fun part of the year, a really fun part of the year where it's, put up or shut up.
Yep.
We always talked about October being a very important month of the year because if you win in October, you set yourself up to make a run for it in November. And here we are going into the last week of October already. Can you believe it's been that long already?
It goes by so fast. And I think it's a weather thing for me. The fact that I'm wearing sweatpants in here because Garrett likes to freeze me out. Which kudos to you because it takes a lot to freeze me out. But it's 85. I think it's actually supposed to cool off a little bit. So hopefully we get some fall weather. But the state fair is behind us. We have basically 1 week left. Halloween comes up, and then all of a sudden it is go time for these teams. So without further ado, I don't know how Oklahoma just always starts. I don't know how that happens, but it always just that's how it shakes out.
Well, because anybody who went to the University of Oklahoma is the greatest person on this entire planet. and you've got one sitting next to you, and I know on camera you're gonna roll your eyes, but everybody knows that you're in love with me because of my allegiances to OU. But anyways, that's besides the point.
Please start with your allegiances to this. Just
and let's be honest too, right?
Oklahoma at Kansas.
You're wearing your Homer hat today, which I don't do. I go neutral typically, for the sake of our listeners. But
they don't have an OU and A&M hat.
Oklahoma typically starts at the top because number one, there has been some big games in recent history with the Cotton Bowl and those types of things, but they are the front runner in the Big 12 right now. They're the only undefeated team, not only in conference but also out of conference as well. They're kind of there've been a lot of storylines around them with Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler and those types of things. But the rest of these teams, if you want to dethrone the champion, now's the time to do it.
Did you just sing when you said dethrone?
Dethrone the champion.
I caught that. He said dethrone.
I mean, but let's not get sidetracked here. Oklahoma has won the Big 12 title the last 6 years in a row.
I know it. This is interesting though. There's a lot of holes in this medal. I feel like
I have been much more confident in years past,
right,
when we weren't undefeated, than I am this year when we are undefeated. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
8-0.
I agree. And this was interesting too because this was, okay, so Caleb Williams had the big game, in the Red River showdown rivalry, whatever it's called, comes back, TCU at home just lights them up. And then this is his first, call it road start, but I mean, we've both played in Lawrence. I mean, heck, you had the entire grid go down in Lawrence, which just naturally makes this a lot more funny. So for 20 minutes, there's no scoreboard. And I think for all those 20 minutes, OU just doesn't show up. I mean, it's 0 in the first quarter.
They're still on the bus.
0 in the second quarter. And they are actually down 10-0 against Kansas.
And it's sad that we talk about Kansas like this, but I was sitting watching the game, and I see the first quarter happen. I'm like, oh, that's really cute, Kansas. You come out to play and Oklahoma doesn't show up. Then the second quarter happens, right? And you're like, oh, this is still kind of cute, Kansas. And then we get into the second half, and it's like, this is not cute anymore.
Right.
What the heck is going on, right? It was funny, though. Kansas, and I forget what account it was. You guys have probably seen it out there. They put out a tweet in the middle of the game calling all Kansas students and fans to hustle over to the stadium. The wording was, we're currently beating Oklahoma. Come support your Jay. I mean, it's desperation in Lawrence, but they gave a scare to the University of Oklahoma, who is not a top, but pretty close to a top of the college football world right now.
Well, they were a 38.5-point favorite.
Yikes.
So if I'm a KU student, I'm, for sure watching that in a bar somewhere.
I'm surprised they didn't, 35-23. Is that grounds for rushing the field again? I mean, it being that close?
I don't know. Look, it was pretty bad watching it. I mean, OU just could not do anything on. Well, I say that they couldn't do anything on the offense. I mean, they had 8 plays until the last drive in the second quarter. That I guess it was 5 minutes and 32 seconds left, if my math serves right. Was the first time that they actually had a drive. So it's just, look, Kansas came out, did a good job, and actually moved the ball down the field, which you just, again, in that game, Lawrence, or if you host KU, typically you're just beating up on them. You got, whatever, short drives for touchdowns, long drives for touchdowns. You get those guys 3 and out, and you do it again. Typically, this is a game where you're, second and third string are in at halftime.
Pretty soon,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, right. So, but interestingly enough, Kansas outgained OU 412 yards to 398, which is just very interesting. 22 minutes of possession out of the 30 in the first half, which we just talked about. You want to have a bad stat for you? This was actually pretty fun watching this, or doing this, I guess. But so Kansas over the last 11 seasons, okay, excluding 2020, 334 yards per game with a minus 116-yard differential, right? Which means your offensive output versus, the defensive side. there's a anytime you have a negative in that stat,
that's not good.
Is not good.
That's not good. That means you're losing.
That means
a lot.
you're losing a lot, giving up a lot of yards, and not getting a lot of yards,
Yeah.
right? And to your point, OU trailed until 12 minutes and 35 seconds into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. It was it was painful to watch. You know, just a memory for me. And to your point, a lot of times you get to have really cool moments in those games. Guys that don't get to play, walk-on guys that get to get in the game, get a touchdown, those types of things. One of my favorite moments in my college football career happened in Lawrence. We were up 1,000,000-0, and I got to throw my twin brother a touchdown pass.
Wow. Yeah,
Now
cool.
it was as cool as it was. It wasn't as cool because there was 10 people in the stands, and so it just kind of felt a little weird. And you know that feeling of playing in Lawrence.
Yeah.
But still one of the coolest deals ever. But it was a scary deal. But talk to me really quick, because we had the two of the craziest plays on opposite sides. You had one of the most heads-up plays that I've ever seen by Caleb Williams, and then I don't know if one of the worst plays I've ever seen, you may have another one in mind, happened when Jason Bean is running to the left, and all he's got to do is stick his foot in the ground. And I retweeted a tweet if y'all want to go look at it. He steps out of bounds, and somebody says, "This is by far the worst vision running the football that I have ever seen." And I totally agree. Talk to us a little bit, though, about Caleb Williams' play, and would you have ever done something like that?
Look, and that's what makes this, as in my notes, I have the best and worst play that I've ever seen. Here's why. Best play, no. I would have never thought in a million years I'd have been like, oh, shit, we didn't get the conversion, which, by the way, this is 3 minutes left, and they were on their own on 45, I think, whatever that was. So this is a very interesting point in the game.
So walk through the play for us, for our listeners that maybe didn't see it or whatever else. Explain to them what Caleb Williams did on that play. So setting the stage, it's 4th and 1.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Obviously, the game's not going extremely well for the Sooners.
Correct.
And so what did he do, Bryce?
Yep. So I want to find this play too. So we have so right now at this point of the game, okay, it is 28-23. Okay.
In favor of
OU.
Okay, so they're up by just a little bit.
Up by a little
5,
bit.
Right.
And so OU is on the 46-yard line, okay? They're 46-yard line going out. So they haven't crossed midfield yet. They do basically a read option play. Read option being that the quarterback is looking at the defensive player, and if he takes the back, then he pulls the ball and he runs. And then if there's leverage to the outside, meaning that, hey, the defensive guy took his his lane, that he's going to hand the ball off. So he hands the ball off to Kennedy Brooks. Kennedy Brooks kind of makes one guy miss, comes outside and gets stuffed, right?
No chance he gets the first down,
No chance that he's getting the first down. To me, this was a blown call by the refs, because at that point, forward progression was no more. Should have blown the whistle. But nonetheless, he's getting driven back, and Caleb Williams comes to Kennedy Brooks and takes the ball, spins, and then picks up 3 or 4 yards to get the first down. I'm watching it going, oh, my God, I almost dropped my beer. Look, it is you don't teach this, right? Lincoln Riley was like, yeah, we teach, these type of situations, but I can't take any credit.
There's no way to teach that.
Well, he said, I don't take any credit because that's just Caleb and Kennedy doing their thing. Kennedy at the end of the game was like, yeah, I saw Caleb, so I just gave it to him. That's BS, because you can see Kennedy actually grip down on the ball.
Of course. Naturally,
because if you get stood up, everybody knows that you have a gang tackle. 3 of those defensive dudes are trying to,
rip the ball out.
Yeah, Evander Holyfield knocked this thing out, right? Yep. So it's just an incredible play, because, and I said that it's the best and the worst play. Best play because you just can't teach that. That's just ball being ball. That's the worst play because for whatever reason, had Kennedy Brooks not seen that or seen that it was Caleb Williams and there is the ball's up in the air, at that point, you could just pick that thing up and take it all the way back. And then we're sitting there going, Caleb Williams, what are you doing? Just punt it, but that was such a wild play. So then ends up, again, in the situation, they go down and score. at that point to go up 35-23 and pretty much end the game. But it was such in that moment again. This is what this guy's starting to do. Big moments when he needs to make a play. 13 makes a play.
Yeah, he does. It's like we had a quote that was up in our locker or in our weight room, at OU, and then my high school coach always put it on our pregame script, and all of you have heard it, but it's big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. Was this a big-time game? Wasn't supposed to be. It turned into that.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, when all is going wrong, who do you look to make a big play? And he, like you said,
right.
he found a way to get a win.
Yep.
Are we going to look back on that and be like, oh my gosh, how did you guys play that bad against Kansas? Yes, for a little while. But if they continue to win and they put, another check in that win column, nobody's going to care how much they beat Kansas by, right? If they're undefeated, you're undefeated.
Yeah, that's true.
But sloppy for 3.5 quarters, finally got it going, did enough to win, and Oklahoma solidifies themselves still or remains as the leader in the clubhouse for the Big 12 title race. So let's move on.
They got to win. Yep.
Let's move on. Oklahoma State at Iowa State.
Yeah.
We talked about this game last week. We thought it was absolutely crazy that Oklahoma State was the underdog, being the number 8 team in the country. But they're going to Ames. They've had trouble in Ames before. And, man, Vegas proved to be right, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that Ames is kind of, for what it's worth, Gundy's Achilles heel a little bit. Because
you look back, what was it?
That was what I was thinking. It was a Brandon Weeden year.
Brandon Weeden.
Yeah,
they had a chance to go.
Yeah.
They had a chance to go to the national championship game, and that was their only loss.
Yep. In historic fashion too, by the way. I mean, so. Look, this is always a tough place to play. You know it. I know it. Anytime that you get out of here with a win is a big deal.
I played my best games for whatever reason. My best games were in Ames.
No kidding.
I think
that's fun then, because I mean it's
2014.
Tough.
I think I had 6 total
Lovely.
touchdowns, and we put up I'm serious. I think it was a school record, 650 yards of offense at the time. Baker and those guys blew that out of the water. But I always played good there, but I get it. It's a trap environment. They kind of get going. It's Jack Trice. You're in Ames.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
That they're they've got corn everywhere, which I don't know. I guess that's why they get so rowdy. Is there's corn or beer. I'll take beer. But they love football, man. And they love their sports, which that's what I appreciate, man. If you're an Iowa State fan, thank you, because it's such a cool environment to play in when you go to a stadium and they love their school, they love their colors, they love their pride. So anyways, that's just it just embodies Iowa State. But look, this was a defensive game, and I don't know if we hinted at that enough. I didn't even realize that Iowa State was so damn good. Defense. I mean, they're third in the country. They're top 5 in the country in every major category. As is I think Oklahoma State's top 10 or top 15. So this was a really, really interesting game to watch, just in terms of being a fan of football. And look, and what we talked about before was that this is all on Spencer Sanders. Can he do enough to just keep them in the game? And my man had a game. My man had a heck of a game and kept them in it. They just didn't have enough big plays when it mattered, to put the game away. And look, the 4th and 2, that's another tough one. So we talked about it. OU Kansas game, they should have blown it dead. This one was really interesting because I think this was a terrible spot. I don't know if you guys know it. Garrett can't roll the clip, or otherwise we get copyright, infringement, and then they shut us down, so we can't do that. So you just got to take our word for it. But 4th and 2 throws kind of a little slip screen, honestly. I think it was either center of the guard for Oklahoma State, basically bear hugs him and then just brings him back, and man, he's over the line by probably a good foot, if not if not more. So. Kind of tough, man. That was a minute left, and they just nailed it. But man, it was a really fun game to watch. That was really, in terms of, it wasn't high scoring. It's just great ball.
It was. And so, I said this last week, and you kind of scoffed at me. I'm going to be honest there, buddy. Scoffed. Iowa State is still in the race for this thing. I know, and they really are. And I think they're playing really good football, right? First game of the year against UNI, 16-10 game. played horrible. We're like, oh, maybe the moment was too big for them last year. They had a Cinderella season, and they can't replicate it with all these guys that are preseason accolades. Then they come out the next week and they lose to Iowa. Uh-oh. Big rivalry game. Turns out Iowa's a pretty good football team.
Yep.
They get a win, a big win over UNLV. Maybe they find it. Then they lose to Baylor. At the time, we didn't know Baylor was in this race as well.
Right.
Baylor's playing really good football. And now they've rattled off wins, and you've started to see the stat line. Breece Hall putting up numbers. Yeah. Brock Purdy putting up numbers. Defense really eliminating scores. It's what they've done is they've started to peak at the right time. And it'll be interesting to see, this week they go to West Virginia. If they can rattle off their 4th win in a row and continue to build that confidence, maybe this is an Iowa State team that comes in. But we talked last week about Spencer Sanders. If Spencer Sanders can stay out of his own way, Oklahoma State's got an opportunity to be, that team that may go to the Big 12 title game.
Yeah.
Was he the reason for the loss this week? I would say no, right? No. You talked about, when we were just chatting a little while ago, some of his throws were maybe just prayers. But he didn't do anything to lose them the game. So do you think Iowa State is the better football team at this point in the year? And I know we'll get into all this.
Right.
What initial thoughts?
But between those two teams, I do think, and it was interesting. It was kind of like, man, finally you guys woke up, right? Talking about Iowa State. I mean, this is a team that, Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, man, they've got guys, and they've got seasoned guys. I mean, we were talking about it earlier, freshmen. Hey, step up. You're a sophomore. These guys have played a ton of games. It was actually awesome. Watching the game, Brock Purdy, buddy. Tip of the cap to you, because there's like 98 records that he's set at Iowa State, which is just really cool, man. It's great to be a young kid. When you're out shooting hoops and you're throwing down the 3-pointer at the buzzer, and there's those individual moments in a game where you do that, and you don't ever really anticipate or expect or you're not practicing to be a record breaker. But man, when it's so cool, dude, hats off to you, because when it's so cool, when it's done, it's really cool. Hats off to you, because you've set again a legacy of great ball. So all that being said, I just had to give a shout out to Brock Purdy there, but I do think that Iowa State had a better game. Okay, interestingly enough, I think that Oklahoma State is a better team, but I think they had a better game. Now, with that being said, again, this all revolves around Mr. Jekyll and Hyde. Spencer Sanders is that guy that has to come out and play well, because, and what we were talking about, before the show, 17 carries for Jaylen Warren is not enough.
No, it's not.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago, that Oklahoma State knows their identity. They know that they are a running football team. Those guys are going to be again, and Spencer Sanders shares in this ground game as well for them. But I think that Jaylen Warren's a guy that needs 30 touches a game. He's already, I think, top 2 in the country in terms of attempts per game, which is again, if you have that guy, it looks like a little bowling ball out there, anyways. From Utah State transferring, which was just a beautiful. Again, just kind of, I guess, a synergistic running back. I don't know if that's the right word for it. I think he just fits really well into the system. But, man, keep letting that dude tout the ball, and that way you don't have to have those prayers. Because, look, two of those passes that, for touchdowns, and I don't want to take anything away from it. It's a touchdown. But the thing about a prayer is it's 50-50, right? A little bit of that, because I think there's a third. It's really 30-30. You either catch it, they catch it, or it's an incomplete pass. But the thing is, a lot has to go your way to catch those. So, I still think, though, that Oklahoma State is a better team at this point for a long-winded.
Let me ask you this. This may not be of any relevance, but would you rather go at this point in the season, take yourself back to when you were sporting number 14 for the Bears, and you're in the position that you're in, right, at Baylor, right? Would you rather play against Iowa State, or would you rather play against Oklahoma State?
Personally, dude, Iowa State.
Correct. Me too.
Just,
And I don't care how good they are.
Right. They're just, in your mind, that they're a beatable team.
Yes.
Oklahoma State
Scary.
Just has something about them, whether you're playing them at home or there.
You have more talent than them. That's a lot. Maybe not every time. We did at Oklahoma. I know you guys are piecing it all together. But they're when you're watching them on film, during the week, it's a little bit more, not nerve-wracking, but you're thinking to yourself, okay, we've really got to play a solid game this week.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
That's a great way to put it, because you have to play. These guys are always really good in their front seven. Meaning, again, the 4-down linemen and their linebackers. So they always get the sacks when you need to. And that's why I feel like, again, per that question, when we were on the field, we would run up and down the field on Iowa State. That's just we felt like we were so much faster than them. Oklahoma State, we said that we were faster than them, but when you watch them on tape, it's like, dang, they are really good. So,
and they, what they do? They always find a way to keep it close.
Yeah,
at least.
I know.
I mean, you look at their games this year. Doesn't matter who you're playing. Some of it's Missouri State, Tulsa, but then you're also playing Texas, right? 23-16, 28-23, 21-20, 31-20. 24-14, 32-24. All their wins were not blowouts.
Right.
They found a way to stay in it, and they just came up on the right side of that fine line.
Yep.
And then this time they finally fell on the wrong side of that fine line, but they just find a way to win. And testament to the mullet man up there, Mike Gundy, getting a contract extension.
Yeah, I know.
For doing this year in and year out, and just understanding where that line is and finding enough talent, speed, plays, whatever it is, to get on the right side of that more often than not in his career. It's
Let me
pretty
ask
impressive.
you something, because this is interesting now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, outside of Mason Rudolph and Brandon Weeden, okay, who would you say is the best quarterback to ever come out of a Gundy offense right now?
Well, there was a guy that's a little older than that. His name was Zach Robinson, and he wore the one-arm sleeve.
No, a white sleeve. No, it's 2 sleeves.
Was
Mr.
it
long
2 sleeves?
Yeah.
No, he was a one-arm sleeve guy. I used to mimic him in high school.
This?
We'll fact check this. Shotgun on who's right?
Yeah.
All right, deal. He wore a one-arm sleeve, and he was swag before swag came out. And Garrett's checking for us right now. We'll let you know in just a second.
One-arm sleeve. Just look up Zach Robinson.
Zach Robinson.
I think it's ZAC, right? ZAC.
Yep.
No.
That works.
You're loading it up for me. That's not fair. He's literally typing in one-arm sleeve Zach Robinson.
Dude, just wait on this. Viewers, watch. Zach Robinson, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, we're pulling up.
Anyways, he was a good player, but you had J.W. Walsh, great high school player, played decent in college, but not like a mainstay. Clint Shelf, we played against him. It was kind of QB carousel. You had a guy named Wes Lunt that came right after Mason
He was
Rudolph.
highly touted too.
True freshman, gonna start, take over. Ended up having a transfer, didn't play all that well. And yes, to your point, Bryce, they've never had just like, other than Mason Rudolph and Brandon Weeden, they've never had these guys that are, NFL factory, up and down the field, all those types of things.
I know.
We're having a little trouble finding the one-arm sleeve.
It's fine. Yeah, that's because it wasn't there. So, look.
We'll find this out, and you'll shotgun next week.
Yeah, that's fine.
Which is fine.
I'll send you a picture over here.
But he's done a great job, right?
He has, and that's what's interesting about it is if I'm a quarterback, if he had a quarterback, and look, Spencer Sanders does a good job for what they need, right? Gives them the ground attack that they need, and what we have found too, in terms of just ball in general, is that we have when you and Lincoln Riley shows it all the time too. When you have a mobile quarterback, what it allows is it puts the defense on their heels all the time, because if you load the box, then you throw it. And then if you keep the box light, then it's a very easy, in terms of that zone read that we were mentioning with Caleb Williams before, it always puts somebody at a loss. And that's what you want. That's what you want as an offensive, in terms of scheme. You want one defender to have to pick and choose what he does, and then you account for the rest. And then that's when you start picking up yards and really moving the ball offensively. So, anyways, what's interesting about it is as we see, oh man, look at the 2 sleeves, Johnny 2 sleeves.
It's cold, brother.
Dude, it doesn't matter. It's Johnny 2 sleeves.
Cold. Look, one-arm sleeve.
I will say this: he was swag when swag was like, I didn't know about sleeve.
One-arm sleeve. It's a one-arm sleeve guy, unless it was cold outside, buddy.
But I think we're both.
What, you just watched the December games?
I think we're both right.
No.
Because Johnny 2 sleeves was
Dude,
there.
Look at Swag-tastic. I never looked that good.
I'm telling you, dude. He was swaggy.
You guys chime in on Twitter and let us know if you think Zach Robinson from back – all you OSU
he a one
fans,
sleeve or a two
was
sleeve
he
guy?
a one-sleeve guy or a two-sleeve guy?
That's fine. I'll
and that will decide our
because right now it's not
shotgun
definitive.
for the week.
I think that I have enough room to say
this is BS. You're so
Okay.
you're in denial. Moving on.
We got Kansas State at Texas Tech. We're already 30 minutes in, brother. We got to roll here. All right, Kansas State at Texas Tech. Big news today. Were you able to watch the game at all?
I watched a little bit of it, and no points in the second half for
they got out
a highly touted, Texas Tech offense. I know you're playing with your
It's
backup.
not highly touted by any means.
Texas Tech.
They
put up
anymore,
points,
though. That's the thing, though. Yeah,
they're
and
Texas
look,
Tech.
they were a big play offense, and I'll give you that. Deuce Vaughn, though, oh my gosh, man, he's just awesome. He's literally
Speaking
the
of a
entire
bowling
team.
ball.
He's literally the entire team. When you look at their wins, when you look at their offensive production, that guy has his hand on. I swear it just feels like every other snap. Again, 120 all-purpose yards with 3 tutties, and it's 20. They I don't know how they got 25 actually. How did they get 25? Oh yeah, I guess
There was a safety,
man. No, I don't think so. Oh, there was.
Yep.
Okay, well that's how it happens. But I mean, I think he is their offense. So look, 15 unanswered points in the second half. But the real story of the week in the Big 12, Matt Wells fired, middle of the season, and Texas Tech. And we were talking about it. I mean, I know that they're 2-3 in the Big 12, but they're 5-3 overall, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
There's always speculation around a mid-season fire, right? A lot of times it is absolutely just solely related to wins and losses and production on the field. But more often than not, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, right? A lot of times that is disagreements in the way things are managed, both just on the internal football team, but a lot of times with the athletic director and kind of that staff as well. Something tells me that Matt Wells didn't see eye to eye with some of the other folks in the office building. And so when things aren't going perfect, he's on the hot seat, and you go ahead and just part ways now instead of letting it run out the rest of the year. Because it is interesting. They have a winning record. It's Texas Tech. They're still rebuilding. They're playing with a backup quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of things going against them, right? And you just can your guy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I
in the middle of the year.
Yeah, I think that seat was hot for a while because I think that this was just a very interesting hire to me, and I think we talked about it before the show too. Texas Tech is just a very interesting. It's an interesting place. I mean, I feel like the guys that are, I don't even think Leach was. Yeah, Leach wasn't from Texas. He did really well. Maybe not. But I think that in terms of recruiting, having a Texas guy is just so big. Out west, and Garrett. I'm sorry. Garrett's a Texas Tech guy. Actually, my wife's a Texas Tech gal. The fans are just, I don't know.
Subpar.
They're
subpar.
Well, they're bleeding for the Mike Leach return. I don't know. This would be interesting.
All right, so let me ask you this then. So they're 5-3 now.
Yeah.
What was the number to keep Matt Wells around this year? What was the number of wins to keep Matt Wells around?
I guess we're asking the wrong question. I think it's the amount of losses.
Okay, that's fine. You're in a winning position. You've got an opportunity still, I mean, at this point, to win 8-9 football games this year if you win out.
Oh, wow. That's tough.
I mean, it's not like you're it's not like you're 1-5, 1-6.
Yeah,
1-7.
I agree. It might be, and what's interesting too is look, they came off a pretty dominant performance against Kansas, which we just they took OU to the fourth quarter.
That's what leads me to believe there's something else going on behind the scenes.
I think so too.
So let me ask you this, and we had a few of you guys chime in. Bryce put out a tweet. And
tweeted,
about the Texas Tech situation, and some of you responded back with who you think would be a good hire. Bryce, let me hear your thoughts on who would be one, two, a couple good candidates.
Yeah.
Maybe just one. Who's your candidate to replace Matt Wells next year as the head coach at Texas Tech? And tell me why you think he would be a good candidate.
I would love to see Coach Brawls back.
Really?
I think Coach Brawls would be a hell of a coach out there. Look, NCAA found nothing, and I think it's time, right? I think that he's paid the price of that, and to sideline a guy for the rest of his career is just tough. And I know that it is touchy, right? And rightfully so. But at the end of the day, too, he's a West Texas guy. Coached under Leach, actually recruited Wes Welker. There's just so many ties to Lubbock that it's not even funny. Just give the guy a chance, another chance, to just do what he loves to do, which is just coach ball. I can't not say Coach Brawls. I mean, it's all I've been thinking about and hoping and wishing for him.
It is crazy that Texas Tech is kind of a factory of like phenomenal coaches.
This air raid, dude, I'm telling you.
You just go down the list and it's kind of crazy. So Art Briles, I think that would be good. Our listener threw out Joey McGuire.
Yeah.
Who's currently at Baylor. Give a little insight on Joey McGuire.
So I love this thought too because he is a head coach. He's 1,000% a head coach.
What's he doing right now?
He is I want to say he's
an assistant at Baylor.
He's assistant head coach. I want to say he might be special teams or to be totally honest with you, I don't know other than just directing. He has been phenomenal. One in the recruiting game for Baylor. And then two, just putting a Texas stamp on a Texas team, which is huge when you come out to Lubbock. So beautiful thing though, and then real quick, so I have a special place in my heart for Coach McGuire because Coach McGuire was coaching at Cedar Hill when I was coming up to Midlothian, and honestly, I know this for a fact, sent a lot of college coaches or scouts to Midlothian. So I owe him everything in terms of being recruited and being, in essence, found out. We weren't that good at Midlothian. A lot of that had to do with me. But at the end of the day, him sitting those guys down there meant a lot, and he's just such a great guy. So I actually love this name.
I love the name too, and because of that reason, you just hit on the biggest point that I think you could hit on. He is a Texas guy. Mm-hmm. He was at Cedar Hill High School. Yeah. He has relationships with coaches.
Yeah.
He can do the recruiting thing, right? He sent a lot of people down to Midlothian. He knows all the high school coaches that can send people to Lubbock, to him, right? That is in conjunction with the guy that I would love to see there, the current head coach of the UTSA Roadrunners.
I love it.
That it has them on an undefeated season. Mr. Jeff Traylor. I know Jeff's son very well. He played at A&M right before I got there, and we've had the chance to become friends. But Jeff Traylor, his pedigree, Big Sandy High School in Texas, Jacksonville High School, Texas, Gilmer High School, Texas.
Wow.
Gets an opportunity. Then he goes out of high school coaching, all in the state of Texas, to the University of Texas. Then he goes to SMU as an assistant. Then he goes to Arkansas. So that's the only place he's been out of state. So he wasn't there for long. Yes. And now he is the head coach at UTSA. This guy runs through the state of Texas very, very deep. He's obviously got plenty of connections in the high school recruiting world. He understands the state, and he's proven to be a really good coach, at least from a cultural standpoint. It's not like they're getting 5 stars down in San Antonio and they're beating up on some folks, right?
That's ball. When you can coach that team, again, nothing against lower Division I, but at the same time, to your point, you're not getting their recruits.
They're a 10-year-old program.
Right.
They were a commuter school and a basketball school not long ago. And they're beating some they're not at the top of the college football world, but they're undefeated and they're beating some relatively big Division I teams. Right. I think either of those choices would be big. And then Art Briles. I think if you guys need a committee to hire head coaches in the state of Texas, please hire Bryce and I,
yes,
because
please.
we know exactly who to place
Yeah,
where
no
to
doubt,
be
no doubt.
successful and win unlimited national championships. So
Yes.
there we go. There we
Yes.
go.
And to be honest, before we leave that that topic, Sonny Dykes has also been in that conversation, which what he's done at SMU. Another Leach guy, by the way, is definitely a respectable candidate.
Think about that.
Yeah,
Sonny Dykes, Lincoln Riley, Sonny Cumbie.
Yeah. Well, Seth Luttrell too, and Seth and Coach Luttrell's over at North Texas,
Absolutely.
and they've been blowing
Mike Leach.
up. Yeah.
There's a lot of coaches that have done very, very well at Texas Tech. Yeah, maybe, but that have gone on.
Yeah.
The Arizona Cardinals are undefeated right now.
Yeah, dang right. Cliffy's doing well.
Everybody thought Cliff Kingsbury was a bad coach. I said, no, he just can't recruit the way that he needs to at Texas Tech. He's going up against all these schools. Now he's not dealing with the recruiting game. He's in the NFL. He's got, a pocketbook.
Yeah.
And
he's got another guy just couldn't
think about
find
all
a
the games on the all the names on that
quarterback.
team.
Yeah, just couldn't find a quarterback.
Yeah. Whatever.
Shout out Patty Ice. Shout out Johnny Manziel. Shout out Kyler.
Golly.
3 pretty damn good quarterbacks.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All right, last game in the Big 12 from this
right.
week. West Virginia at TCU.
Yeah.
Bryce, thoughts there?
Just another tough one for TCU. This is definitely by far. I'm assuming that, Coach Patterson's probably having a few drinks at night just to kind of get over it. This defense again. They've been injury riddled. Youth lost some guys in the NFL. Look, as much as I goof on him, he's a really good defensive coach, and so I know this is tough, on him to continually just give up 400-yard games, not really have the offensive production that's normally there. And again, this is a Big 12, so offense is gonna move the football, they're gonna score points. It's just the way that they've been really ran all over, which is I think just very different for him, and but again, West Virginia. And we'll talk about this because they have Iowa State at home next week. This to me has the makings to be a trap game for Iowa State if they're looking ahead, because West Virginia can still play some ball now, and that place, as great as Ames is, Morgantown loves them some fall football. Towards the end of October, early November, they absolutely love it. So. Again, if they get Letty Brown going, they're just kind of a different team. And I feel like, finally last couple of weeks, they just didn't really after the Virginia Tech game, he took a little bit of a slide there in terms of production for, again, Letty Brown. But I think the guy's a stud. So if they get him going, they mix in, number 6, Garrett, which, kind of backup quarterback, a little kind of salt to pepper to, Daggy.
The old salt and pepper.
Yeah,
no doubt. Well, okay, so speaking of that was the recap for the week. A bunch of good games. Yeah. And like we mentioned, we're at this point in the season where it's starting to reveal itself. Still a lot of football left. Mayhem could happen. But let's take a second and talk about where the Big 12 is shaping up. You've, again, put out a tweet. Oklahoma is obviously at the top. They're the only undefeated team in conference, out of conference. Then there is a list of teams, 3 specifically, that have 1 loss. And so at this point, we're sitting here saying, okay, depending on these 4 teams, these are who's kind of at the top going towards this Big 12 title race to play in Jerry World for another ring or a ring, period. Let's walk through each of these. And, Bryce, I want to hear your thoughts, and I'll certainly give mine as well, on how you see the Big 12 shaping up as it stands today with the what remaining games we have to play. Let's hear it.
Okay, beautiful. Real quick before I start, can I have my esteemed colleague give me another beer in there to start
Be
this
right
off?
back.
If you can slide out and then slide back in here. Okay, look, so we'll go ahead and start with OU. Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and start with OU just because they are 6-time back-to-back Big 12 championships or Big 12 champions. But look, so they've got Texas Tech at home. They've got a bye next week, and then they go to Waco with them boys, green and gold. And then they host Iowa State, and then they have Oklahoma State and the Bedlam game at Oklahoma State. So this is what's really interesting about these 4 teams that are coming down the stretch here. Because what I think you have is Iowa State, again, to Trevor's point, OU, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. This is a 4-legged race at this point, right? 3 of these 4 teams all play each other, being that Iowa State has already played Baylor, so they're out, and then Baylor's already played Oklahoma State. So what's really interesting is that you have OU that has to play a juggernaut of a schedule at the end. They have Baylor, they have Iowa State, and they have Oklahoma State. To me, what we have talked about time and time again on this show is that it's going to happen. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? It is going to happen. They are going to get slapped in the face. There is going to be one of these 3 teams, if not 2, if not all 3, that slap OU in the face. And OU
I think OU has the potential to lose 3 games?
OU has not shown me enough to say that they can get out of any of these games. So I think it is going to be very interesting that they travel 2 out of the 5 games, or 2 out of the 5 weeks left, to Baylor and to Oklahoma State, and they host what could be and what will be, I think, a very hot Iowa State team. So predictions, because this is just a fun thing that we get to do now. I think out of the next 5 weeks, right, with the bye, they've got 4 games left. I think they go 2-2.
Oklahoma? Mm-hmm. And who do they lose to?
I think they lose to Baylor, and I think they lose to Oklahoma State.
Okay, you heard it there first from the homer. Oklahoma going 2-2 and missing the Big 12 title game altogether.
We'll get to that down in a second here. Go ahead.
Okay. So here's the way I see it shaping out. Oklahoma is undefeated.
Yeah.
And then you've got each of these teams. Oklahoma State beat Baylor, lost to Iowa State. Baylor beat Iowa State, lost to Oklahoma State. Iowa State beat Oklahoma State, lost to Baylor. They've all beaten up on each other, okay? But they've all, to your point, already played each other.
But real quick, are we staying on this OU little 5-game stretch here? Okay, perfect. Just make sure.
Oklahoma has won 6 straight Big 12 titles, which shows me that they've figured out a way to make it happen, okay? So in my opinion, right now, Oklahoma, even if they lose one of these games, is going to Jerry World for the title, okay? I don't think they're going to lose a game. I think they're running the table. Personally, that's my prediction. I have Oklahoma going undefeated into the Big 12 title game. Now it gets interesting looking at the other 3.
Okay. Oh, that's a good way to do it. Okay. I will agree with you that I do believe
it's just the been there before deal. It's like Alabama. You've been there before, so you continue to go there. Clemson built that for a few years. You've been there before, so you know how to get back. You go play in Little League baseball. You've been to the championship before. You understand what it takes to get there. It's just a formula. I get that there's an opportunity for them to get beat up on, and it may happen. Maybe this is the year. But if you look at history, 6 years in a row, they've found a way. And they've lost games in the conference those years.
I would agree, but I think this is the most vulnerable team that you guys have had the last,
There's
honestly,
no question.
probably 10 years.
There's no question.
But
they're also
the last 5.
One of the only ones that is, to this point in the season, undefeated.
Which is very interesting. That's
a very interesting point.
2014 was the last time that they've been undefeated, I think, for 8 games. I don't know if that's true or not, Garrett. You can fact check that.
I don't think that's true because I was playing in 2014.
And
we were.
It wasn't 04. It couldn't have been 04.
No.
I don't know. 04.
I don't know.
Anyways,
but to the point, they are 8-0.
Okay.
They have found a way to win.
Okay, so we have your lock at least for one of these teams. Okay, so now let's go through the gauntlet here.
Okay.
Real quick. So we have Iowa State. Okay, Iowa State is going to West Virginia. They host Texas. They go to Texas Tech, to OU, and TCU. That's a hell of a schedule as well.
That's a hell of a schedule.
I think West Virginia, personally, is a complete trap game because they have this Texas coming to, which loves to spoil parties as well. They still have something to play for, and then they go to OU. So I think out of this 5-game stretch, I think they win 3 of them, but I do think they lose. I think they lose to West Virginia this week, crazy enough, and I think they lose at OU.
All right, so they're out of the Big 12 race
yes.
then. Okay, so you got them out of the Big 12 title game.
Yeah.
All right, now you've got – let's go to Baylor. They host Texas, win.
Yes.
They go to TCU, win.
Yes.
They host Oklahoma. You say win.
Yes.
They go to Kansas State. That's the trap game.
That's the trap game to me. Yep.
That's the trap game, and then it's kind of a rivalry game with Texas Tech. But the trap game is Kansas State.
That's what I think.
So as of right now, you have we'll pencil you in Baylor in the title game.
But I will say this game coming up is very, very important. One, because it's UT, but two, is because they have not done. Excuse me, that's my burp of the show. They have not done well against the run this year. Okay, so they've given up. If we go to rushing here, we've got 161 to Texas Southern, 132 to Kansas, 216 yards to Breece Hall and Iowa State, 219 yards to Oklahoma State. So if they get through Texas, I really do believe that they will. OU coming to town, that will be needs to be a blackout game. This is the year. For everything that they've been through, this is what I think, and not to put any pressure on these guys, but that's where I think these last 5 games come to. I think it's Aranda's coming out party. I think that dude's going to get an extension after this 5-game stretch, and I think it's going to be beautiful.
To your point, if they play well this weekend against Texas and get that win, I don't think they have a problem with TCU, even though that is a rivalry game. There's my burp of the game or of the week. That OU game, it's already writing itself as just an absolute big time matchup.
Yep.
One that all of us will be glued in on the TV.
No doubt.
Right? It'll be fun. That's why we're looking at it. I think it'll be fun. So let's look really quick at Oklahoma State. Then I'll give my thoughts. So now you have Baylor in.
Let me ask you about Oklahoma State, because I've got Baylor in. You asked me about Baylor. I've got Baylor playing OU in the Big 12 championship game. That's why I told you to hold on.
Yep.
I think Baylor's schedule sets up on this back end, this 5-game stretch going to TCU. You mentioned it. I already knew it. K-State was going to be that trap game. I do think that Aranda has them competitively mature, which I just love. They learned from Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State, okay, we have Kansas coming into Stillwater. Then we go to Morgantown, come back to TCU. They're at Texas Tech, and then they have OU in this Bedlam game. Thoughts?
In my opinion, I don't think Oklahoma State is better than Baylor or Iowa State. Okay. I think they're actually the worst of the 3.
Okay.
That being said, when I just look at the schedule, I think theirs lays out most favorably to face Oklahoma in Bedlam, which is always a crazy game, last game of the year, for an opportunity to win themselves
with a 1-loss.
With a 1-loss.
Okay.
I don't think they have an opportunity to beat Oklahoma the last game of the year. But if they can win each of these other ones, it'll make it interesting. So that being said, whoever beats Oklahoma is going.
Well,
right?
that's what
somebody beats Oklahoma.
True.
If they're undefeated, I can make a case for if Oklahoma is undefeated, I can make a case for any one of these schools getting in.
Do you think that Iowa State can make it to those 5 games? I mean, they have to be unblemished. If they have another loss, I think the
Iowa State
Big 12 game is going to be 2 1-loss
When I look
teams.
at it now, Iowa State's out. I'm going.
Okay.
I'm going to go with you. I think this is the year Baylor makes a case. I don't think they beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I do think that they find a way with 2 losses to get it done, because
you said that you do feel like they as a 2-loss conference.
Yes, and this is why.
Okay.
Because if Oklahoma, to my point, if Oklahoma goes undefeated through
Correct.
all of them, all 3 of those teams are 2-loss.
Right. But do you think that – okay, so that's interesting, because what you're going to have, to your point.
Who can win the rest of the games? And then that introduces back potentially – well, not a Texas team, because if these guys win the rest of their games, then Texas has multiple losses, right?
That's what's interesting, because you're going to have Oklahoma State lose to Iowa State and lose to OU.
Yes.
But beat Baylor. Baylor, is going to have a loss at Oklahoma State and against OU. Okay, but they beat Iowa State. So that's what's going to be
to
really
our listeners, where we
interesting.
just went all over the place and you guys are trying to follow this. I apologize. The fact of the matter
you
is
got to write it down.
is we preface this by saying this is the fun time of the year where you can kind of start to see things shape up. There is no shaping up in the Big 12.
No,
there are so many things that can still happen.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
You've got a team out above and ahead with no losses, but you can easily mix things up to where that team could have 2 or 3 losses.
It's true.
And vice versa. Somebody's going to have to step up. It's going to be an absolutely insane November in the Big 12. So stick around with us on the Trevor and Bryce show. Let's get this bread.
I'm telling you. I think it's going to be fantastic. And to be totally honest with you Cyclone fans, like, please plead your case a little bit, because you guys have 3 out of the 5. You're going 2. And West Virginia is always tough. Excuse me. I think you guys beat up on Texas. Texas Tech is look, they're in dismay right now. You got Sonny Cumbie going to basically be the interim head coach. You just have injury riddled all over the field. And then you go to OU. So to get out of West Virginia and OU both there is really tough to me. But all that being said, I really do feel like you have this OU, Baylor, Oklahoma State triangle here that's going to be really interesting. So
it is.
Let's
go one game at a time, right?
We're going to go one game at a time, no doubt about it. But please, if you guys don't mind, we're going to take a short break here. Let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now's the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their – golly, that was really off key. Sorry, Garrett. With our new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With football season kicking off, it's already kicked off, so we need to redo this. Get in on the action going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem?
Call 1-800.
Gambler. That's why we're partners. Okay.
All right, real quick, let's run through these games, because this will give us a good we don't even need to talk about them. Let's just pick the winner.
Okay, perfect.
Because what it's going to do is it's going to shape up this 1 week. We try to talk through all 5 weeks coming up, and obviously we can't put our finger on it yet. We still got to play out some of the season. It will reveal itself. So let's start here. The University of Texas at number 16, Baylor. They have Baylor as a favorite at -2.5. The over-under is 61. You are in Waco, McLean Stadium. Who you got here, Bryce?
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting. I know that we were only supposed to pick a winner, not talk. That's not how I roll. Both coming off bye weeks, both getting rested, both watching a ton of film. I do think that Texas is going to come out to play. I feel like we will have number 5 and Bijan Robinson wrapped up, and I think that we're gonna make Casey Thompson have to move off his, point target. We're gonna make him move a little bit. He's not gonna be able to sit back there too comfortably. So I think that this is going to be Baylor's game, and I think that we know what's at stake in these next 5 games. So I got Baylor winning by 10, but I'm going to take the under.
I'm with you there. I think it's Baylor's game. I have no confidence in University of Texas after watching them.
Throw away 3 halves.
Bad.
Bad. 3
football.
Wins in the second half.
I'm taking Baylor -2.5, and I'm also taking the under. Iowa State at West Virginia. This is the trap game we talked about. Iowa State is the favorite. -6.5, over-under set at 46.5. What do you got, Bryce?
Yeah, like I said, I got West Virginia winning this game. I think Iowa State's going to be caught up, and their big win against Oklahoma State, looking ahead that, hey, we're back in it. West Virginia can play football in the fall. I got West Virginia winning this game. I got the over.
Okay, so I'm going to agree with you, but we could be proven very wrong, because Iowa State's coming off of a very big win. They just beat the number 8 team in the country. They are the favorite in the game, but it is tough, as you know, to play up there with all the moonshine flying around at West Virginia and Morgantown. I'm taking West Virginia as well, +6.5, and I am taking the over. I think it's going to be kind of a shootout.
That's what I think so, too. Okay,
yeah.
Texas Tech at OU. OU is a 19.5-point favorite. Thank you, Garrett, for throwing this up there, by the way. Yay Networks is the spot to be. Over-under set at 67.5. What you got?
I am taking Oklahoma in this game. Maybe not 19.5, given recent history of how they've – but then you look at, the TCU game, and they were hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah.
They're back at home. They're definitely going to win the football game. Turmoil in Lubbock, firing your head coach. Sometimes that's a good thing for a program. Sometimes that's bad. Do they rally? Do they not? A lot of questions. Taking Oklahoma. I think it's going to be the under, though. 67.5 is a lot of points.
It is a lot of points. I would agree with you. I have OU by 4 touchdowns, so I'm taking that money line for sure. And I think that 67.5 is a lot of points. I think OU might put up a 50 spot on them, so I think it could be. Yeah, I'm going to take the over on that one just for fun.
Love it.
TCU at Kansas State.
Kansas State's the favorite.
Fighting Purples.
-3.5. Obviously going to be a close game. Turmoil and I keep using that word, turmoil.
It's a great word.
Rubbish down in TCU land. I'm taking the Wildcats in Manhattan, -3.5. I'll take that as well. I think they win by 2 touchdowns. And I am going with the under 59.5.
Yeah, too much Deuce Vaughn here. I'm taking K-State as well. Under all day long. Yep.
And last but certainly not least, Kansas at Oklahoma State. I am for sure taking Oklahoma State. 30.5 points. That's a lot of points. If I'm a betting man, I am going. I'm going to take Kansas plus 30.5. They built a little confidence this last week against OU. Oklahoma State still wins the football game. Over under 56.5. I'm going to take the over there. I think Oklahoma State's going to put up a lot of points. That being said, good game for Oklahoma State to get a little more confidence under their belt after dropping a heartbreaker to Iowa State last week.
Yeah, I got this game at 50. No, I'm not gonna go 50. I'm gonna go 48-7. That's what I'm gonna go.
There we go.
48-7. So I'm taking Oklahoma State here. And then 50. What is 48-7? That's right at 55. So I'm gonna take the under.
So guys,
how about that quick math?
Quick math, really good, really good. Bryce
Baylor
definitely
edge.
paid attention. It wasn't Baylor. Baylor, no, absolutely not.
Midlothian education.
Guys, that is another week on the Trevor and Bryce podcast. We love hanging out with you guys. As you can tell by this show, still a lot up in the air in the Big 12, so stick around with us. It will start to reveal itself as we go down the rest of this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. November's going to be absolutely crazy. Guys, we're a part of the Big 12 Field of 12. We're the Big 12 portion, Field of 12 Media. We are a podcast and digital media network covering football by the people that know it best. Bryce and I cover the Big 12, like I said. You've got folks all around the country. We've got a Saturday night show live with Christian Hackenberg and the QB guru himself, George Whitfield. Tune in on that. We've got some good talk about everything in the college football world from a national standpoint. But we love hanging out with you guys every single week. Engage with us on Twitter. Subscribe to our channels on anywhere you get your podcast. And as always, Mr. Petty, enjoy hanging out with you, my friend. Thank you to Yay Networks and Garrett for the awesome space. And until next week, my man, it's going to be a crazy week in the Big 12 once again.
It's starting to come down to the wire. Please tweet us questions, thoughts. Again, we're couch quarterbacks just like everybody else out there. So, ladies, please, you guys always ask great questions too. Have a fight with your man about football. It'll rile him up. Pop a beer with him, and sit down and watch some college football. So, thank you guys as always, and ladies, and we will see you next week.
Boom.